When I first arrived in San Francisco, I met someone on a bus. She offered me a free healing session. So I went and I received this session. And during the session, she said all sorts of fantastic and magical things. She told me about my past lives, how I'd been brutally handled as a slave in Egypt. She told me about a medieval life and about many other details of my past and future and prophecy. And it was very impressive and very powerful for me intellectually until I got home and I thought, how does she know that any of that actually happened? How can she prove it? And I figured out she couldn't. And so why should I believe it? I want to talk about something that is going to piss a lot of people off today. Begin quote, "Then we will no longer be infants tossed about by the waves and carried around by every wind of teaching and by the clever cunning of men and their deceitful shaming." Next verse, "And a time will come when people will not listen to accurate teachings. Instead, they will follow their own desires and surround themselves with teachers who tell them what they want to hear." Closed quote. You know, the Bible may have been used to manipulate me for many years, but I'll be darned if it sometimes isn't accurate and fitting to what I'm seeing and experiencing right now. So, Matt Kahn man. That's probably pretty incendiary. I have a lot of friends who love Matt Kahn, and they go to his events and they download his recordings and they come and bring me his recordings. Here, listen to this with me. Oh my God, isn't this amazing? Isn't this awesome? And I'm so happy for them that they find something that is valuable. But there's a little something that they should be aware of. And what I'm saying about Matt Kahn applies to anyone in the principle, because it's a principle I'm talking about and not a person, all right? And we'll get more to that later. So my problem with Matt Kahn isn't because he charges $666 for his 3 angel academies, although that's cute. It isn't because the first 15 minutes of his talks are constructed to be hypnotic inductions that put you in a suggestible alpha state, which feels awesome and makes you want to accept anything you hear after that. Not that that isn't a good thing to do sometimes. I use it myself a lot. And why is that valuable? This is a different topic, but because our mind chatter is the thing that keeps us frustrated and upset most of the time. We have these voices in our mind talking. Whenever you're in a hypnotic trance, those voices are silent. And so it feels good because you don't have that stress and that pressure anymore. But you don't need this experience to go into hypnotic trance. You can do it yourself in 100 other ways. No, the biggest issue I have with Matt, or the warning, at least that I'd like to speak out, is around channeling. All right, what is channeling? Well, according to himself, Matt receives information from the Akashic records. What are the Akashic records? I don't know. I've never seen them. Does anybody else know? I don't know. There's many definitions, but basically the Akashic records, loosely defined, are the imaginary magical books that have information that nobody else has, right? So obviously somebody smarter than you, smarter than me, wrote the Akashic records. Therefore, if a guy pops up and starts telling you what's in the Akashic records, you need to listen, right? Or not. This fits together with the induction. Anytime where you accept anything that contradicts your own experience or logic, then you bypass your own critical factor. You suspend disbelief and you go down a very slippery slope of ungroundedness. One method that is often used to get us to bypass our critical factor is a so-called appeal to authority. It's a logical fallacy. It's because, well, 7 out of 10 doctors smoke Pall Mall, therefore you should too. They're experts. their authority. Therefore, they know which cigarettes are best to smoke, right? This was normal 50 years ago in advertising, and therefore you should follow the experts regardless of what you think or how you feel or what your experience is. So the Akashic Records or the Hathors, greetings to Tom Kenyon, or A Course in Miracles and the angel that revealed those, or what was my last example? Oh, Abraham from Abraham Hicks. Anywhere where these information are presented that are channeled, these are all appeals to authority and fundamental logical fallacies. And if you accept them without any filters, then you've started on a path to believing whatever comes out through them, and that can potentially become very dangerous to you, as I guess people from various cults can tell you that have gone all the way to death. All right, suicide cults and murder cults and things like that. Not to say that everything that we accept that isn't true will take us all the way to murder, but I've seen many, many people I love. And the reason I'm doing this is because I care so much about so many people who've just gotten super distracted by someone who is telling them something from this magical source. Same thing applies to your dead relatives, by the way. In fact, the woman who was giving me that session, her aunt had received the whole healing formula from her dead brother, right? Who didn't have ID or passport, as another one of my former channeling friends said. So how does she know it's a dead brother? She doesn't. But anyway, so that whole thing takes people down very long, powerful paths. As soon as you shut off your brain and step into whatever these beliefs are that are being presented, if you don't have proof for them, then they can take you anywhere. They can tell you theoretically anything, right? Watched a great movie about this tonight. It's called Faults. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. Okay. Yeah. So, assuming your mom came to you and she said, I have the Akashic Records. Let me tell you what you need to do, who you need to marry, what books you need to read, what meditations you need to do, etc., etc. Would you believe her? What if Donald Trump said he had access to the Akashic Records? Will we believe him? You get the point, I hope. Why should Matt or anybody else be different? Be very, very careful about supposed appeals to authority, experts, higher sources than yourself, your own experience, your own logic. All right, because there's 1,000 ways to go there, and a lot of them will take you away from yourself instead of toward yourself. As they say, if you see Buddha in the road, kill him. And that's, I think, what they're talking about. Someone standing up, this is the one true path, and only I know it and you can't know it, no experience, no logic, then gotta be careful. Gotta be really careful. Yeah, there's extreme danger in that path. Anyway, as I said, applies to all channelers. I single out Matt because he's the hot topic lately. And I'm not saying Matt isn't a great guy and Matt isn't amazing and Matt doesn't help a lot of people. I'm saying that if anybody, including me, stands up and says, I'm receiving special revelation from a specific source and I'm here to give you information, and you have to believe it because I'm getting it from this magical source, if it doesn't line up with your reason, your experience, your logic, if you don't get any sort of confirmation yourself, you need to be really careful about it and actually avoid it.